All right. Let me make sure everything's on mute so I don't have a big ding-a-ling right in the middle of our talking. Everybody ready?
Ready.
Hello, friends and fiends. Welcome to Bugs Need Heroes, the podcast about insect superpowers. Each episode, an artist and an entomologist team up to illustrate the inspiring abilities of insects by creating bug-themed superheroes. I'm Amanda.
I'm Kelly.
Producer Derek and Desdemona and Clementine, a lot of cats today, are
A lot of
all
cats
here.
today.
Before we get started creating this bug-themed superhero, what's bugging you, Kelly?
I also have baby Finn outside my door screaming and screaming and screaming. I think most of the fans or the listeners know Finn is the fat black cat missing an eye and a back leg. But man does he yell.
The pirate
He's
cat.
a little pirate and he's pissed. Uh, but nothing, Amanda, it's the end of the semester.
Yeah, so
I'm
your brain's goo, I assume.
My brain is goo. I am grading so many reports, so many lab reports, which take a lot of time and a lot of tea and a lot of scotch. So we're afterwards, of course. So I have one final exam to give my students on Friday, and then I'm gonna relax a little bit until next semester. Try to plan some research for the fall and, take
Is
a
that
breather.
is that
Oh.
part of your work is you just have to think about next year all the time? You're like, okay, in 8 months I've got this lined up. In
Yeah. How many
24
students do I
months.
have?
Yeah.
Yeah, do I have lab students next
You can't
semester?
just
Who's
show up
with
like
me?
today we're talking about, whatever. You have to think ahead. Ugh.
Oh, lectures too. Yeah, most of my lectures are all planned though, because I teach the same two courses
Mhm.
forever. So,
Is it
so
cold
it's
there
fine.
yet? I could never keep track of your East Coast weather.
It is very cold. Yesterday was like
Mm.
30, I don't know, 38 or something. So, yeah. Yeah, I know. Oregon is warmer. You
We
guys
are
are
warmer.
comfortable.
I believe the word is temperate rainforest. So we really got one slice and we stay in that slice. It's very rare that we leave that slice on either end of the heat spectrum. So it's just rainy, 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 rainy
Rainy.
here.
Is that what's bugging you? Is just the rain? Or you got anything else?
Am I an old crotchety lady if I'm like, meh, the weather? But
Maybe.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
May we all be so lucky.
Hmm.
We have our favorite thing today on the podcast is when we
Yes.
have a special guest, and we have a really cool one today. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. Special guest Nina Jenkins is here.
Hello
Yes.
there.
Hi, Nina.
Hello. Is
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
anything bugging you?
Uh, you know, I'm building a house.
Oh
Not
boy.
No way.
me personally, obviously. So I'm working with various contractors to get this house built. Currently sitting in Florida in Gainesville. But when we moved to Florida, we didn't move to Gainesville. We moved to a place called Cedar Key. And I don't know if you've heard of it. It's famous because it gets hit by hurricanes.
Oh no.
And last year, you remember Hurricane Idalia
Yes.
hit Cedar Key with almighty force, and our house was completely destroyed.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
sorry. Ooh.
well, it's we moved into a hurricane zone, so we had to go in with our eyes open,
Mm.
and our house was on the ground, looked out over the water, and that water came and ate us up, basically. Thankfully,
Wow.
we weren't there. We evacuated, took everything that we thought was important to us, and luckily we did, because there was nothing left in the house after the hurricane. It all got sucked out into the Gulf, including our king-size bed and our washing machine and tumble dryer. Not even in the house after we got back. It was just
Oh,
astonishing. So anyway, we're rebuilding on stilts, so we're going to be safe from future hurricanes, but
good.
coordinating all of the work and, various contractors, God, it's a nightmare.
I
So
can't
that's what's
imagine.
bugging me at the moment, but we'll
I,
get there.
I
We'll
I
get
think you win the what's bugging you for today. I can't.
That's gonna be bothering you for a while. That's ugh
Ooh. Well,
devastation.
we're pumped, Nina. We're very excited to have you. Nina is a Penn State affiliate professor and a chief technology officer of ConidioTec? I did it wrong already. Is it ConidioTec?
ConidioTec.
ConidioTec. Oh boy. I knew I was gonna do that. Um, and we're here. We're very excited. You're gonna talk to us today about everyone's least favorite bug. And I say that as a mosquito scientist. Um,
You're
bed
on the
bugs.
it's just bed bugs and mosquitoes hanging out on the low end of why do we have to have them?
So, what got you into bed bugs in the first place?
Yeah, so bed bugs kind of got in to me. I'm actually an insect pathologist, so I've, for the last 30 years, I've worked on fungi that kill insects. And I know you did an episode on cordyceps, and I
Oh yeah.
listened to that before I came on because I wanted to hear all about that. I don't work on cordyceps. I work on fungus called Bavaria bassiana. And there are several fungi. There's another one called Metarhizium. And they are, yeah, specialist pathogens of insects. So my, scientific research has always been to look at how you can use those fungi to make them into pesticides. So they're natural pesticides rather than using a chemical. And I've worked on a huge number of insects, from starting out with locusts and grasshoppers in Africa,
Wow.
and then moving on to mosquitoes. So we did some work on mosquitoes and whether you could control them with the fungus, which was pretty promising, particularly with respect to preventing them from transmitting malaria when they're infected, which is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And then various invasive insects like spotted lanternfly and Asian longhorn beetle, house flies in chicken farms. And then a student, Alexis Barbaran, who was working on her PhD at Penn State, came to me with her pot of bed bugs and said, look, this biopesticide that you're looking at for houseflies and other things, do you think it would work on bed bugs? And I just said, well, let's give it a go. So we set up a pretty simple bioassay, and I couldn't have been more blown away by the results, because these bed bugs, when they just had to, walk over a surface that we had sprayed with the biopesticide, and they keeled over within 3 to 4 days. They died
Wow.
the fastest of any insect that I'd ever tried to kill with the technology. And then, with Alexis, I began to learn about bedbug biology and the issues around controlling bedbugs with standard chemicals. And it's sort of like light bulbs are going off. I was thinking, wow, actually, this might be the most perfect application for the technology that we've been developing, over the last 20 years. And if we can modify it so that it's specific for use in bedbug control, that would be pretty cool. So yeah, bed bugs came to me. I wasn't looking for them, but they turned up, and I couldn't be
Isn't that
more.
how it always happens with bed bugs?
Yeah.
Yeah, bed bugs are where you find them, I'm afraid.
So you mentioned there are generally issues with trying to control bed bugs. Why do we have such a hard time with that?
Yeah, it's because they hide deep in cracks and crevices. So the first myth I have to dispel is that bed bugs are not invisible. You can even see the first instars. So there are 5 life
Oh, okay.
stages in a bed bug. From an egg, they go to first, second, third, fourth, and fifth instar, and then they shed their skin finally to become adults. And even the tiny first instars, they're a tiny bit bigger than a speck of dust, but when they're moving around, you can see them. And if they've taken a blood meal, you can certainly see them. But they like to hide. So bedbugs, unlike body lice, don't live on the human body. Okay, so people aren't infested with bed bugs on their body. It's their house that can get infested. So I'm losing my train of thought here. But yes, so they come to us to feed, but they don't like the heat of the human body. We're too hot for them.
Oh, interesting.
So they take the warm blood, and then they run away to a cool place to digest. And they know that they are at risk if they're exposed, so they hide in tiny cracks and crevices. They're not They're not mainly in your bedding. If you've got a really heavy infestation, you'll see them under the pillow and things, but mostly they'll hide in cracks and crevices and hard furnishings. So they're like the headboard and the box spring and things like that. So they are difficult to see. And because of that, when you normally, if you go in and you're, you know, spraying an insect, you can see what you're spraying and you hit them directly. But with a bed bug, you can't see them all. The ones that you can see are actually really easy to get rid of. You can just suck them up with a vacuum and they're gone. But you know, if you're a pest controller, or even a, you know, just you're trying to control them in your own house, you will never find every bed bug because they can be so well hidden. So you need a product that will kill the bed bugs when they walk over a surface that was sprayed with that product. It's called a residual activity. And you know, the chemical products that are registered for bed bugs, because they need to be pretty safe to be sprayed in bedrooms and in the environment where we live and we're constantly exposed to them, they have very short residual activity. So a bed bug will come out, you know, maybe the day or the night after a spray has been applied, and because that spray didn't hit the bed bug directly, then they walk over the surface and they have to be able to pick up enough of that toxin, active toxin, to die. The bed bugs walk on their tippy toes. They've got these sort of, yeah, they're really like these two,
Oh, they're really raised up.
you know, front legs, and they can climb up things, but they're walking on their tippy toes. So their contact with the surface that was sprayed is very minimal. So they're not absorbing much toxin. And because those toxins decline very quickly in their activity over time, it means that it's really hard to control 100% of the population. And the only way you can control bed bugs is by controlling 100%. Because if you've left a couple there, they're going to feed and breed and do this. So the chemicals were proving very tricky because it was very hard to, you know, keep that residual activity strong enough for the bed bugs that were hidden for them to come over. And I don't know, have you ever known anybody who's had a bed bug infestation? Like what was the worst thing about it when they were going through the treatment protocol?
To leave home. It was my assumption that you can't be there when they like put that big tent over your house is the one I've seen, and they're like, "Okay, see you in 3 days." You're like, "Where am I supposed to go for 3 days? Not here."
Yeah, it's got to be expensive and
Oh yeah.
incredibly inconvenient to uproot your existence for several days, especially if you have pets.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
Having to
So
do that.
So that's, you described fumigation there, which,
Oh,
and
okay.
that is extraordinarily expensive, and it's not done in every state. It's quite
Mm.
common in California, actually. So they do that for termites and they do it for bed bugs. But you can also heat your house. That's another one where you've got to leave, and they
Oh.
heat your house up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit they're aiming for, to get
Oh.
all of the bed bugs, all of the life stages are killed, but they have to get every tiny crack and crevice within your home up to that lethal temperature, 120, 130. If they
Seems
don't manage
impossible.
that, then some bed bugs will escape, and then you haven't got the 100% control. So that's bad.
I wonder
And
what
then
you
if you're,
accidentally ruin in your house, putting your house
yes,
in an
so
oven.
I mean, there's stories about, you know, televisions melting and people coming back to find makeup in a huge sort of like
Oh
gloopy glob.
no.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so, you know, it's tricky, but you know, with a good company, a heat treatment can be very effective, and they tell you what to prepare, and you know, that's all great. But it's also very expensive because it takes, you know, at least 2 technicians to run that heat system, or, you know, for a number of hours, and, you know, make sure that everything's good. So it is an expensive process. Or you can go with standard chemical treatments. But then before our product, what they were doing was they were asking people to empty every single closet, every single drawer, launder all of their clothing items,
Oh
absolutely
God, the
everything,
price.
store them in black plastic trash liners,
Mm-hmm.
tied up, and live like that for over a month, because 2 weeks after the treatment they would come back and they would respray, because they knew that the chemical was declining in its activity, and bedbug eggs can take up to 2 weeks to hatch. They wanted to top it up, so people were living with living out of black plastic trash liners, you know, with, you know, these chemical sprays going on, probably 3 sprays, just to make sure that every single bed bug, when it came out from its harborage to look for a blood meal, was going to get sufficiently a lethal dose to actually control the entire population. So incredibly disruptive. And
Inconvenient.
then they found
Yeah.
out that, you know, bed bugs are becoming resistant to practically everything that was registered. So pyrethroids,
Oh.
you know, I mean, yeah, absolutely mad. So they are constantly producing, you know, more products that have dual modes of action, so different types of chemicals that would, you know, if the bed bug's resistant to one, then maybe this dual chemical will, you know, solve it. But yeah, it felt like a losing battle. And
I
yeah,
just don't.
and
I don't know how much you can spray lethal to bug stuff before it starts to affect like the other things that live in the house. So like the people and the pets. Because I know that that's a problem with like ant sprays. They're always like, make sure your cat doesn't lick this ant spray. I'm like,
yeah,
not great. My cat
yeah.
might lick it. So yeah, how many toxins can you really introduce into a system before like it's not just affecting the bugs that you were targeting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
well, that's
Well,
a really good point, and that is why all of the sort of like the professionals or the experts say do not try to treat bed bugs yourself, because you can
Ah,
get a can of whatever from, you know, the local store, and it says kills bed bugs, and it's true, it will if you hit them directly. But if
mm,
you don't hit them directly, the residual on those off the shelf products is even lower than the ones that you can
right.
get as a professional. And, you know, people keep spraying and you're actually not following the label. So the good thing about professional insecticides is that there's a label that has been written in collaboration with the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, to get registration. So the EPA have evaluated this thoroughly, and they know that if you apply it according to the label, it's not going to be toxic to humans. They wouldn't
Mm.
allow it. But if you are not a professional and you're not following label instructions, that's when you can run into serious problems. And we've even heard, you know, stories of people setting fire to their house trying to get through bed
oh
bugs. You know,
no.
they'll
Oh
spray
God.
alcohol and then strike a match or something. And it's like, oops, I didn't mean. Uh,
There's, there's no need to burn the whole house down just because you have bed bugs.
Well, gotta start over, I guess.
Time to rebuild. But the so your fungal treatment then, is that truly insect specific? Is it bed bug specific? How like taxa tight are we going here?
So the Bavaria bassiana that we used is actually made in a fungus factory in Montana, and it's put into a product that's called Botanigard and Bottega, and Botanigard in particular has been on the market for almost 30 years now, I think, to control aphids, whiteflies, and thrips in glass houses and things like that. So the Bavaria that's in there is not specific to bed bugs, but our formulation was designed with bed bugs in mind. So unlike most chemical insecticides, and indeed unlike Botanigard, our product is not diluted in water. And that's the real key for bed bug control, because when you dilute the fungal spores in water, it triggers them to germinate, just like a seed. So once they've germinated and they don't have an insect to grow on, then they'll just shrivel up and die. So that would mean that you've got no residual, this
Yeah.
this important
Wow.
thing, that it stays active when it's on the surface. So we formulated Apprehend, which is the name of the product, with Bavaria spores in a pure oil formulation, and it's ready to use. So you simply shake it up, the spores do settle, shake it up, and you spray it on the surfaces where you know the bed bugs will walk. And because the spores are in oil, they're protected from high moisture and from desiccation. So they just sit there like a minefield, waiting for the bed bugs to come out and cross it. And rather than when a bed bug crosses our minefield, if you like, it's like when you're at the beach and you've just come out of the water and you want to get to your shoes and socks and you've got to walk over the sand. But as soon as you've put a foot on the sand, the bottom of your foot is covered in
Sand.
sand particles,
Yeah.
right? So you can't do it. It's exactly the same with the bed bugs. They come out of their harborages, they're looking for a blood meal, they walk over the surface that's been sprayed with Apprehend, and all of the spores stick to the cuticle really readily, and the oil formation assists that. So now they're covered in spores, and when they go back to their harborage, they also spread those spores because they all huddle up together, so they pass them between each other by direct contact as well.
You said they kind of tippy toe walk.
Yeah.
The spores don't have a hard time attaching to them with this kind of upright, elongated walk.
No, it
Huh.
it sticks to their little claws anywhere that is actually in contact, that it sticks to them. And then they do groom a bit as well. And we see that a
Oh, they'll
lot of it
wipe it on
goes into the
themselves.
eyes, which is, you
Huh.
know, a very easy way for the fungus to penetrate inside the bed bug and kill it. So
Wow, in the eyes, that's brutal.
yeah.
Even for a bed bug, that's rough.
I can't.
That's so cool. Man, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty metal. And this your product is safe for pets? Is there any issue with humans if we touch it, or if your cat or your dog or your parrot or whatever you happen to have?
Yeah, no, it doesn't grow at mammal body temperature. So it can't grow at that temperature, and that's why we're not infected with cordyceps either. Going back to your
Yeah.
cordyceps thing,
Oh.
you know, it's the fungi can't grow at human body temperature, so they need a sort of just an air temperature, like yeah, 70 degrees,
ambient.
70 to
Yeah.
80 is just perfect for it. So, and that's the temperature that a bed bug is when it's hanging out in your house. So it's the perfect temperature for the fungus to infect the bed bug, but it can't infect humans. So it doesn't, when you touch the sprayed surfaces, it has no impact, other than we try and put the spray applications in areas where people won't come into contact, because the spores will stick to you, and then you'll have removed them and they're not there waiting for the bed bug. So that's why we try to hide it. So no, there's no effects even on reptiles and things. It seems that they seem, you know, they are not affected by the.
Was my next question was
Yeah.
there reptiles, because they're about ambient temperature
I was about to say,
anyway,
like,
but
what if you have a lot of other pets that are not mammals, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get calls from the pest management professionals that use Apprehend, and you know, sometimes they ask me interesting questions. You know, they'll say, "Oh, what about the snake?" And I go, "No, the snake's going to be fine." And but then of course the people who have lots of reptiles also keep insect colonies like crickets and mealworms. Yeah, those can be affected by the spray, so those need to be removed. And then I had this amazing call from a PMP one day, and he said, "So my clients are asking about their pet tarantula. Is that going to be affected?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, the tarantula should definitely be out of the house, you know, during the spray. Wait for all of the droplets to settle before bringing it back in." And he said, "Yeah, but my client's asking when they can have the tarantula back on the bed."
on the bed.
They've been like lovingly
does
snuggling
that?
their little rose-kneed friend.
And I was thinking,
my
I don't
God.
really, I'm not sure. I think they shouldn't have it back on the bed now. That's not that no,
Ever?
Ever
Maybe
again.
the answer is ever. Yeah.
For multiple
like-
reasons, maybe don't
They're
leave it on your bed.
insisting on having the tarantula in bed. Apprehend is not the product for them. And
What about all the urticating hairs? Do you have
Just-
like tarantula hair in your bed? What is happening
You're like,
here?
why am I so itchy? Oh, right. Rosalind the tarantula was here earlier, and now I'm itchy.
dear.
People are humans are fascinating animals, aren't we?
I think
We are.
there's like this overwhelming thing where, like, if you're the kind of person who keeps X pet, you're just kind of a little bit of a freaky deaky. And I think tarantulas falls in there. And I don't think the tarantula people will be upset that I'm saying this, because they already know. They already know that they're little freaky
They're in on it.
geeks. Yeah. Snake people too. They're like, yeah, I'm a little bit of a
I had
freaky deak.
snakes. I had snakes in high school and college.
And art thou a freaky deaky?
Yeah, perhaps.
Methinks.
Methinks the freaky deaky doth protest too much. That's what's happening.
Truly.
So, Nina, this product sounds really, really interesting. I love Well, certainly I love products that are not likely to extend out and harm us or most of our pets, other than the freaky deeks. So that's pretty cool. So thinking about bed bugs historically, they've been here for a very long time, but where did they come from? What is the origin of bed bugs? Do you kind of know?
Yeah. So I don't think we know for sure, So there are theories. Probably one of the most popular ones is that they develop from bat bugs. So, we know that there aren't enough caves for the entire human population, even way back when we say cavemen, for the entire population to live in caves. But bats live in caves. They will also live in any kind of structure that humans maybe have developed. And bats have bat bugs. They're closely related to bed bugs. They look very similar. You have to have a microscope really to tell the difference. And the theory is that, yeah, bat bugs adapted, from living with bats to living with humans, having come into these shelters to hide out with the bats and then transferred their allegiance to humans. I think that's a reasonable theory, but there have been some very fancy sort of, I don't know, genetic sort of analyses that suggest that theory may be incorrect. So I'm not going to
Oh,
say it's definitely the case, but
I
I
had
don't know
assumed
that
it was the
anybody's
bats.
come up
Yeah.
with the perfect theory as to how they evolved. But you know, it's yeah, nature
I've
finds a
learned
way, doesn't it? So it's
Oh,
yeah.
always, yeah. If I've learned nothing from Jurassic Park, it's that nature does
The
find a
thing I
way.
learned from Jurassic Park
Um,
is that we shouldn't make dinosaurs. That's the thing I learned.
I still haven't gotten that lesson. Make dinosaurs.
Make
Let's do
dinosaurs.
it.
I know I've said this before, but why did you start with the carnivores? Start with the small herbivores and then get your feeding under you, and
See
then we
how it
can move on.
goes.
Start with Protoceratops. Protoceratops is going to be enough of a handful on their own. You don't need to start with T-Rex. Sorry, we've got off the rails here, but I'm just saying.
But all that to say, so bed bugs are not North American or any part of the Americas native, right? They've come over from
Know that
Europe and
bed bugs are also invasive.
I don't
well,
know. Well,
I thought they had come over with European settlers here, but I might be
You,
wrong on that.
Well, there you go. It's quite possible that one of these genetic sort of analyses did demonstrate that
mm,
they weren't here in the US until the settlers arrived. That's quite possible. But I actually couldn't comment on it other than what I
Sure.
just said.
Because everyone,
Yeah.
they're so controversial. Everyone is so upset by them, and folks are trying to figure out, well, why are they even here?
what could you? One of
Yeah.
you tell me why are they such a big deal? Other than they're hard to get rid of, I know that, and that they suck on your blood, blah blah blah. Um, but like, why is that such a big deal? The way like a mosquito transmits disease, and that's why they're a big deal. Are bed bugs also transmitting diseases?
No,
No, they're
no, they
just they're
don't.
just annoying.
Yeah, so but it is weird though, isn't it? There's something ultra freaky about the fact that something is feeding on you in
Eating
your
you just a
safe
little
place.
bit.
This is, the one safe place you have is bed, and that's when you are not conscious. You're
Oh
basically at
yeah.
your most vulnerable, and there are things eating you while you're in that vulnerable place. So I can see how it really screws with your mind. But the thing is, bed bugs were really quite widespread. So, back before DDT, people knew that they had bed bugs and they cleaned and managed. I mean, they would put their mattresses out in the sunshine, on a regular basis if they could, to try and remove the bed bugs. They would hammer their carpets. They would try to manage the population, but they were never actually getting rid of them. And then when
Yeah.
DDT came out, they realized that they could control bed bugs with it, and they actually made DDT wallpaper. So
Oh my
so that
gosh.
you could paper
Oh
your
no.
house with wallpaper that's treated with DDT, and you wouldn't have pest problems, including bed bugs. And they sprayed people, for body lice with DDT and all sorts of stuff. So that became a really effective method of controlling bed bugs, and I think they practically disappeared. But DDT is a very similar chemical compound to pyrethroid insecticides, so they did start building up a resistance. So two things happened. DDT was removed from the market for all the reasons we know. And there was also resistance building in the population, but it had done such a good job that we thought bed bugs had pretty much gone away. But there must have been pockets of them, and again, there's theories about it. One theory is that they remained in chicken houses because, large scale egg production requires chickens to stay in that house for up to a year laying eggs. They then refresh the flock, but there are so many cracks and crevices that bed bugs can hide in there. They can feed on the chickens whenever they want to, and of course, they grow to huge populations, and people who work in chicken houses could easily inadvertently bring bed bugs back to their homes, and so that there's a possibility that the long-term harborage of bed bugs that we're now dealing with now, when this resurgence happened at the beginning of the millennium, about at the end of the 1990s, beginning of 2000s, possibly stemmed from the bed bug infestations in chicken houses, but we don't know for sure. But I think it's certainly one potential sort of little harborage site.
Yeah,
A lot of
that makes
people
sense.
blame international travel, particularly from developing countries, but this is not fair. Partly because in hot countries, it's the tropical bed bug that's a problem, not the common bed bug, which is the issue that we're dealing with in temperate climates. So, blaming underdeveloped travel from underdeveloped countries for the resurgence of bed bugs is actually illogical, because it's not the same
Yeah.
bed bug.
It's racism. It's just flat out racism.
Yeah.
And
It's much
yeah,
more
I
likely
think,
it's the Marriott you stayed in a town over that got to you,
yeah. Well, I think a lot of the listeners probably, I think you just blew their minds with the fact that there's more than one bed bug, even.
Yeah.
I think most folks think we have one type of bed bug, and that's what we got everywhere. But there are, how many active species are there right now?
You're
Any
asking me a
idea?
difficult question now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we know at least there's two then, right? The common and the tropical.
Yes. And then there are some minor ones that are really far less important. And there are Cymexy species that associate not only with bats, but also with birds. Swallow bugs are very similar. So there are quite a few similarly related species, but for the human ones, there is the tropical bedbug and the common bedbug that are the most common.
We have to worry about. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably like a dozen or something
Yeah.
hanging out. Man, bed bugs are wild. I've never seen one in person. I consider myself lucky for not having seen one in person. I do get, I don't I don't know, probably for you also, as an entomologist, do all of your friends and family text you blurry photos of bugs and ask you, what is this?
Yes.
And is it a bed bug? Because I get that all the time, and it's never a bed bug.
Yeah. I mean, I would advise people who find anything that they're suspicious of to do look up common bedbug on the internet. There are hundreds of photographs, and it shows you all of the different life stages, and each life stage looks the same as the other. It's just a bit smaller. So they are very distinctive. Once you get an eye for them, you know if that's a bedbug or not. So
Kind of that
do, if
flat
you
abdomen
trap
and
something, and
Yeah.
a good way to trap something, if you see something crawling, like, if you are in a hotel room and there's something there, I suppose you don't, people don't travel with lint rollers, do they? Maybe they do, but a lint roller is a really good way of
sometimes.
trapping these insects, because you can run it over there, it sticks it to them. The insects stick to them, and it's a good way of keeping it under control and taking a good look at it as well.
Portable sticky trap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had to deal with bed bugs like through travel or anything, or strictly lab?
Well, so I got really into bed bugs. You know, as you have to, if you're developing a product, you have to
Mhm.
really understand your beast completely. You have to understand the biology and you have to understand the situations in which your product will be used. So I have crawled around in many people's bedrooms. Yeah, from all, you know, all areas of life. And yeah, anybody can get bed bugs.
Mhm.
But it's not something that you should freak out about. So when you do look up bed bugs on the internet, you see these freaky, massive infestations that are just, yeah, horrifying. But you don't need to, you know, a bed bug infestation for most people doesn't look like that, because when you see the blood poop that they leave behind, it looks dirty and you would clean it away. And if you see a cluster of insects on your mattress when you change your sheets, you would remove them, wouldn't you?
Vacuum them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but unfortunately, some people aren't doing that. And, you know, whether it's mental illness or, you know, just,
Yeah.
you know, inability, they can't see them or anything like that, that's when things get out of control. Most people will keep a bed bug infestation at a lowish level just by doing normal hygiene. But what you can't do is eradicate them that way. That is really difficult. So if you think you have a bed bug infestation, call in a professional as soon as you can, and don't panic, because it can be solved. It's not a problem and it isn't going to grow into this nightmare situation. But don't use off the shelf sprays, because you're not going to get every bed bug, and the ones that you don't get may be repelled by whatever you're spraying. So that spreads them further around the room, which makes control for the
Oh,
professional
yeah.
more difficult as well. So, you know, one of the principles of using Apprehend is that we want people to live normally. Don't do anything that you don't normally do, because we want the bed bugs to behave normally. So
Mhm.
if that's what's going on, that's you get much better control by living in exactly how you normally do and not disrupting your life than you would if you were trying to help things along, because you usually make the wrong decisions.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can't if you change anything too drastically, how are the professionals supposed to know where the bed bugs are going to be if you
Yeah,
keep kind of spreading them around?
that's right.
Um, how much do they drink? So if I had a bed bug on me in the middle of the night and it decided I was a snack, how much blood loss are we looking at here?
Oh, very small, very small. So I guess an adult bed bug would take more than an adult mosquito, maybe twice as much, but I don't know what that is
Huh.
in milliliters. That's a really interesting question.
It's
I've never thought about how many microliters
volume.
a bed bug would take, but they will try to fill themselves up completely, because they just need one blood meal to move from one life stage to the next. So they want to fill their bellies and then go back to the harborage, sit around like fat slobs for a little while, use that blood for, you know, for their growth and energy. They then shed their skins, and now, hey, I'm a second in star now. I'm going to go find another one of those big fat blood meals, and that's basically how they go. And they have to take a blood meal to move from one life stage to the next. So we know they're coming out of their harborages, and that's the key to this strategy. They're not going to starve themselves waiting in a harborage. If there are humans present, it's our breath that stimulates them to move. So by elevating the level of carbon dioxide in the room, it wakes up the bed bugs. You know, they breathe through their antennae, and they're going, oh, elevated level of carbon dioxide, there's a blood meal here. They come out of their harborage and they start blood seeking, and so the carbon dioxide gets them moving, and then they will home in on the human using cues such as heat and odor at closer range. But it's the carbon dioxide that gets them moving in the first place, and that's really important. So a lot of people,
Like
and this is
mosquitoes.
one of the
Yeah.
classic examples of a big mistake, is they get their house treated for bed bugs and they go away for 2 weeks thinking, I'll let that work while I'm away, and then when I come back, the bed bugs will be gone. But they won't, because they won't even come out and expose themselves to whatever has been sprayed. They wait until you get home, and then they're really hungry.
And everything's worn off and there's
Right.
just
There's
Yeah.
nothing.
nothing there, and you put
I think
your toasty, delicious, breathing, stinky self in your bed,
Yeah,
and
I've
they're
been
all like,
waiting for you for
the
2
giant
weeks.
has finally returned. Let us get him. Ah.
Well, for mosquitoes per blood meal, it's usually around like 4 or 5 microliters.
Okay.
So it can be more, and the bigger mosquito, I think different species there's probably a range.
Chunky
Uh-huh.
So
mosquito.
maybe a bed bug's around 10,
Mm.
Yeah, I'd guess
10
that's
microliters, I
probably about
guess.
right. Yeah, for an adult anyway.
I know that
Yeah, for a
a
biggie.
flea infestation can kill like a kitten. Could
Yeah.
how many bed bugs would it take
Kill a kitten.
to suck someone dry?
We're talking about how many bed bugs we'd need to kill a kitten.
How many microliters of blood is in a kitten?
It's horrible,
Let's
horrible.
collect the data. Right.
Oh, we could crunch some numbers. No kittens were harmed in the making of this podcast. Oh wow, that's great. So
But like having a small kitten like that,
yeah,
they're not really at risk of being super damaged by a
and
bed
it
bug
sounds
like
like
they
they
would be
like
by
us better
fleas.
anyway. We're more delicious than the kitten, according to the bed
We
bug.
are, and we're less hairy. They'd really prefer
Yeah.
not to have hairy kittens, but they will eat on a kitten for sure.
Yeah.
But they prefer humans.
I'd love to see some sort of study about whether someone who's hairless versus very hairy, who gets eaten more by the bed bug. Like just like a real hairy individual versus someone who's been squeaky cleaned. Who gets bit more?
It would be interesting. So I'm now you've mentioned this. I'm thinking. Hairy people might notice the bed bugs because you can't if you have a bed bug on your inner arm and you let it run, and I've done this obviously, you let it run over your arm, it doesn't move very far. They know they don't want to be moving over you because you might detect it. If they hit a hair, that hair gives you the alarm. Oh, there's something crawling on me. So when they get to your skin, they bite almost immediately, but you cannot feel it. You can watch it happening
Oh wow.
and you cannot feel it at all. Unlike a mosquito, which is like a little pinch, isn't it? It does hurt. It doesn't hurt with a bed bug. But if you're really hairy, you might be alerted more quickly because they trigger like a Venus flytrap. They trigger the hair and you go, oh, what's that? You know?
So why
Why doesn't
sorry.
it hurt? Why doesn't it hurt when they bite?
I think they inject an anesthetic or
They
something.
inject.
So yeah, you honestly can't feel it. I've done it many times. And then of course, people don't all react to bed bug bites. So, people who are really allergic to stuff tend to react very quickly to a bed bug bite. Other people, have a delayed reaction. When I first started this, it took 7 days before I got a bump where I fed a bed bug.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
7 days. So you could
That's
sleep in a hotel or, somewhere that had bed bugs, and it would be 7 days later, if you were me, before you knew that you'd slept somewhere that had bed bugs. But other people react instantly. And about 50% of the population don't react at all. And it's mainly the elderly. And this is why there's such a problem in elderly living facilities, because your immune system gets a bit toned down as you get older and you react less to these things. So it's very possible to to not react at all, and you hear lots of stories where there's a couple and the wife will say they only bite me, they don't bite him. It's not true. She reacts
She's
and
just
he
having it.
doesn't.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is like finding
I hear
out
that
that
with mosquitoes too.
yeah, this is like finding out that like shellfish and cockroaches, if you're allergic to shellfish, you might be allergic to cockroaches. And you're like, what? Allergic to- like,
Well, when you were doing these studies in your lab, you had to keep bedbug colonies, right? What do you feed them in a laboratory setting?
It has to be blood. So a lot of people feed them on themselves. We
sacrifice for the
bought blood.
science.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
We bought
undergrads
blood
are
from
for,
a
right?
from a research facility. Sorry, I missed that.
That's what undergrads are for.
Feed them the kittens known as undergrads.
And PhD students. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loyalty pledge. You
Yeah,
have
you
to
can
get them
buy blood.
undergrads.
So from research facilities, they pay people for their blood, and you can order any kind of blood you want. It's So we would buy blood once a month, keep it in the refrigerator, and then we have these sort of like feeding cups. And you must know from the mosquito stuff, do you use a hematech system or just the little sort of like flasks with parafilm underneath?
Yeah, I just used the watch glass with parafilm over it.
Yeah.
And I went to the Asian grocery store down the street from my apartment and bought citrated pig's blood. I heat that up to body temperature, put it in the watch glass, cover it with the parafilm, and the mosquitoes happily feed off of that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Mhm.
our system's was a little more sort of extensive. So we would have these, we'd have a well where the blood would go. And yeah, we actually used tree grafting tape for our
Oh,
membrane.
okay.
And then there would be a water jacket around that blood reservoir, and we would pump body temperature water
To keep it
to
body,
keep the
yeah.
blood at that temperature. And the bedbugs will crawl up and feed from underneath. So we never had to actually open the bedbug jar. They would feed through mesh and through the grafting tape. But
Yep, I
when
would
that,
invert the watch glass on top of the mosquito flight cage,
oh
and
yeah,
they'll come up. And you put a hot, like a seed mat for heating plants
mhm.
on top of the blood container, and it keeps it just warm enough where they're happy to. Mosquitoes are less picky, I guess, than bed bugs.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they are. And yeah, we used to use old blood from the mosquito group because they would stop using the blood before we would, because
Hmm,
the bed bugs were perfectly happy with month-old blood, whereas the mosquito group weren't. Yeah.
that's
Interesting.
fascinating.
Huh.
All the stuff we have to do, right? All the weird blood we got to work
What
with.
I'm hearing is if I accidentally become a vampire, I become an entomologist, and then I have all this access to blood at any time.
Anytime.
Mhm.
And grad students.
Congrats.
Like, oh, she's a nice professor, but she does suck my blood. So and the research that you could do
Vampire
though,
Amanda.
long-term research if you were a vampire studying bugs. You're like, well, I would read this book so hard. It was just an entomologist vampire who spends 300 years studying all the all the bug research. Like, how do they change? I'm gonna find out. Me personally, the vampire.
Oh,
Perhaps
if
niche
only I
to
had
only
300
me.
years to study something. Man, uh, how was, yeah, I guess speaking of time, how long did it take for you and to do this research and figure out, wow, this really works. This is going to be a product. This is viable. Not 300 years,
No,
but
luckily it wasn't. It wasn't. So, I mean, we have to acknowledge that we've been working on the formulation technology and the concept that you could use, yeah, a fungal formulation to infect insects for quite some time. So when the bed bugs turned up in 2012, and we did those original experiments, we were able to submit a patent application because we realized, I mean, people have been using fungi to control insects for a long time. So there's nothing
yeah.
novel in that, but nobody had ever tried it with bed bugs. So we applied for a patent specifically about using fungal spores for bed bugs. And we submitted that patent. And then we started building a portfolio for the regulatory authorities. So with some guidance and with some additional funding that we got from the College of Ag, we were able to put together a registration package that, yeah, did all of the rats and rabbits tests and everything, just to make sure that everything that we were doing was going to be safe in use. And that took, yeah, from 2012, I guess, 2016, we submitted that package, and we got registration in 2017. So that was relatively quick. It took just
Okay.
over 12
Yeah.
months for the EPA to review the package and yeah, accept that as a registration. So that was pretty good. And then we had spent, yeah, that waiting period sort of, learning about the market and developing the spray system. Now that was really hard because we had to find something that was going to be useful and easy for a pest management professional to use, cheap, so that it didn't put them off buying our product, because you have to use this spray equipment, and that wouldn't get blocked up by the spores in our formulation. So we wanted to put down a really small amount of oil because oil is messy. So it had to be
Yeah.
what we call an ultra low volume spray. But every sprayer that we were trying would block up with the spores because the orifice through which we were trying to push the product was too small. So eventually we found something, and that did take years to actually come up with this kit. And it was off the shelf bits and pieces from all over that we put together, and it does work really well. But that was the hardest part, actually.
Engineering the nozzle.
Yeah.
I think people don't think about this when you're kind of trying to create a product, just the amount of engineering
Right.
that goes into
How do
making
I
it work
spray this
properly.
incredibly thin milkshake onto this bed? This mushroom cream of mushroom soup all over my bed.
It looks like cream of mushroom soup. It's a little more runny, yeah. But I usually describe it. It looks like English tea with milk, but weak mushroom soup is also probably more
Appropriate.
accurate, actually.
Yeah, you can feel free to take that.
Free
That's
to be
yours
like,
now.
okay,
You can use that.
Green bean
Bring all of your
casseroles are
talks.
out. Cream of mushroom are in.
Well, how has it been going from scientist to entrepreneur? What a weird shift. A lot of us don't. We are little gremlins in our labs working quietly on weird things, and now you're a chief technology officer. You're like out there
What a title.
with a product. And how has that been?
Yeah, well,
Wild?
I am just like you. Science was everything, and you couldn't have paid me to have gone and done a business degree, for goodness sake.
No, thank you.
But we went on this course. It was run by an organization called Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and they get funding from Pennsylvania government to teach people how to commercialize ideas. So we went along to this boot camp. It was an 8-week boot camp when we did it, and it was quite fascinating because there were like eight groups of us. We're all pairs, actually, and everybody had a different idea. There was somebody that had developed a component of LED lighting that would enable it to last forever, because there's a weak component in LED lights that is the thing that fails first, and they had found something that worked better. There was a guy that had developed a hydrofoil, and these are out in the market now, those hydrofoil surfboards that enable you to surf above the water because you've got the hydrofoil underneath it.
Oh, cool. That's
So
so
we
cool.
all had to explain our technology in like, I think we were given under 3 minutes, and it was all techie. Nobody could do it in 3 minutes, and the trainer,
the elevator
oh
pitch.
God,
Right?
this is what I've got to deal with. But over the 8 weeks, he managed to switch us from scientists who wanted to explain about the technology to entrepreneurs who could explain why their product was something that you would want. And it
That's
removed all the
amazing.
science, and we had to approach it completely differently. So at the end of each session, we were sent out with jobs, and one of the most important one was customer discovery. So we had to guess who we thought our customers would be, and cold call them and talk to them about our product and what they thought of it, and get the hardcore feedback from them, like, that will never work because of this, that, and the other. So for example, we thought hotels will want our product, but when we started engaging with hotels, they said, well, we don't spray pesticides in our hotel rooms. We're not licensed to do that. You have to have a pesticide application license in order to spray any product in our hotel. So we have contracts with pest management professionals who come in and they do all our pest control. So we're not interested in your bedbug product, thank you very much, because we wouldn't be able to spray it. That really useful information. I wouldn't have known that. So then we thought, okay, well, pest professionals are the people, or is it the general public? And when we started talking to pest professionals, they said, yeah, well, bed bugs are really hard and people freak out when they get them. And, the worst thing you can have is the general public with a can of spray that they think is going to kill bed bugs. You need to produce a product that's for professionals, that will, enable us to be successful. And, I would ask them things like, well, what is it about a product that would make you use it for bed bugs? And they were saying, yeah, well, it has to have a really long residual. We want to be able to do a one and done. We don't want to have to go back 3 times. We want to, people never prepare properly. They weren't willing to get all of their clothes out of the drawers and everything. So we need something like that. So we thought about all of that, and the feedback that we got from our customers, our potential end-use customers, enabled us to develop what we called a value proposition. Like, why would you buy this product? Well, less prep, single application in most cases, and a residual that will last for up to 3 months. Oh, well, I'll buy that, right? So
yeah, now you've got your 3 talking points.
yes.
Right?
So we built this matrix of elements of our business by doing this discovery, and we ended up with what they called a business model. So it wasn't a business plan, it was a business model. Like, this is where we're going to get the supplies, this is how we're going to distribute, these are our value propositions, these are our customers, and we had it all mapped out, and it enabled all of us to see whether our idea was going to be something that was workable. So the LED people realized that for them, their customers were these huge companies that were so much bigger than them that they wouldn't take them seriously. So they had to license their technology to a company that could deal with that. So that enabled them to see that light. And the surfboard guy licensed his stuff out as well, because he realized that it really wasn't his job to do that. But it's great, it's a really good product, it's out there. I don't know, it's probably an algorithm for me, but I see these things on my Facebook page all the time because I'm interested in it.
You're basically just shark taken and through your Instagram feed, like, that's a good idea, that's a good idea, that would never work.
So interesting. God, I would hate to have to cold call people. That's my nightmare. Is, well, 1, being on the phone at all, but 2, having to cold call a company and be like, this is my product. What a nightmare.
It was good, but the other really amazing thing that came out of that was I spoke to a guy called Stuart Fain, who owned a family pest control business called Our Pest Prevention in Maryland, and he was so enthused by this idea. He was our only private investor in the company.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he became part of the team, and
oh, that's awesome.
He was so useful, because whenever we had, this idea, oh, maybe we should do this, we'd run it by Stuart and he'd go, yeah, that would be great. Or, oh no, I wouldn't do it that way because blah, 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 blah. It was fantastic. So we had this in on the industry from somebody who really knew it deep down in the core. And then when we did our first trade show, we went to Pest World, that exists annually, run by the National Pest Management Association. You too can go to Pest World.
Itchy the whole time, just walk in, you're like, oh, suddenly my skin, I'm so itchy.
So we had a booth and Stuart came along. So, pest control people are, rightly skeptical of, new products, particularly when they sound too good to be true. That's what we're all told. Don't believe it. It sounds too good to be true.
Like.
But we had Stuart on the booth, and he'd used it in his business. He had 40 pest control trucks going out throughout Maryland and DC. And he was able to say to these people who were going, I very much doubt this is going to work. Stuart would go, no, it is. I've rolled it out in my company and it works fantastically. It's really good. And they're going, what, you're really? Okay, well, maybe I'll give it a try. So that was a really good sort of leg up that we got. And we would only have done it if through the customer discovery. If we hadn't made those calls, we wouldn't have discovered that, or indeed many of the other elements that made the product possible. So so our trainer, cool. Don McCandless, who became our CEO actually, but he was the guy at Ben Franklin who was training us. He said there are no answers in the lab. You've got to get out of the lab to find the answers. So for business, that's what we did, but it was great.
That's so neat. What a journey, what a journey you've taken.
We talked before about how coming up with something is not the same skill set as getting that something out there. The
It
the
isn't.
the really great programmer is not always the really great manager. So you the way that jobs work is you get promoted that, and now you're out of your skill set, right? So
Yeah.
as an artist, I've worked for a lot of companies where the CEO is an artist. Um, that's not the same skill set. Of CEO and artists are not the same skill set. And so you have to hire other people. You have to reach out to people who that is their skill set. And I think that's a really
Yes.
valuable lesson to be like, hey, come up with the idea, but but then the next step is finding someone who can take that idea and go, here's how you make it big, you know?
Mhm.
Because my dad is infamous. This is the family lore at my house, is that my dad comes up with these really great ideas, and then 5 years later it's on the market because someone else came up with it, and he goes, that was my idea. And I'm like, well, you should have done something about it 5 years ago when you had the idea. And he's always like, oh, I invented that. I'm like, no, you didn't, because you didn't make it and then make it.
Put it out
But
there. Yeah.
but here he was with this great idea, but no resources to get it out there. And so
He needs Ben Franklin.
he needs Ben
Yeah.
Franklin. We
Yeah.
all need a little Benny Franks in our life. May we all be blessed by Ben Franklin. So there you go.
Oh, man, yeah. I can't picture the getting out of your own way that has to happen basically in order to put a product like this out. What did your colleagues think? When I know all entomologists, we all talk to each other. Like when you were like, "Hey,
Hey, guess what?
I think I've solved the bed bug problem," what were their reactions?
I was never so bold to say that.
Hello,
I'm saying
fellow
it for
bug
you, Nina.
people.
I'm saying-
I'm here and I've got a great idea. Oh, they're like,
But well, no, it was exciting because it was exciting for Alexis as well, the PhD student. So
Your
she
PhD
had this
student, yeah.
beautiful chapter in her thesis as a result of this, and she was able to present it at ESA and all of that sort of stuff. So it was all good. And writing the patent was a fascinating process. Working with lawyers to sort of describe your technology in lawyer speak. So that was interesting, and it was it was just a process. I think I got the most amazing support from my department head and from the college and actually from the university as a whole. We were given lots of legs up because the Penn State were very keen to commercialize their technologies. They see all of this research income coming in, and they wanted to demonstrate the technology coming out, whether it was by the faculty themselves or by licensing. It didn't really matter, whichever was the best fit, but they really wanted to promote that. So I had an amazing ecosystem within Penn State to work with, and it wasn't just Ben Franklin. There were many elements that helped us. And I think it's that thing about being coachable. I was a sponge. I took in all of the information, and and I had a sidekick, Giovanni, who was my postdoc, and he was my partner at the Ben Franklin boot camp. Just fantastic. Our team remained very small. So Don, who was the Ben Franklin trainer, became our CEO. Giovanni became my chief operations officer, and he performed that job with absolute excellence. He's just amazing. And they both took the very big risk of leaving their jobs at Penn State and going full-time for ConidioTec when we hadn't sold a thing. I stayed on half-time at Penn State and half-time at ConidioTec. And then soon after we'd started selling product, we hired one member of staff, Carrie Sprout, and her skill is in graphic design, actually. So she did all of our advertising and marketing things. Fantastic. But she had to do everything. So in fact, all of us had to do everything. So, well, nominally, Carrie was our marketing and graphic design person. She also was on the filling line with Giovanni and Don and me, screwing on bottles and doing that. She's doing customer support. She's making boxes, shipping product, entering stuff onto our QuickBooks. We all had to learn how to use QuickBooks. I mean, goodness, yeah. I mean, but we all learnt and developed together. We all had our own individual role, but then we all had to muck in on the rest of it. And Yeah. And as there was one other person involved, and I shouldn't miss out Jason, who did our website initially, and then kept everything up to date on our website, putting things up and developing a map of all of the PMPs who wanted to be on our map to show that they used Apprehend, so that when members of the general
cool.
public
Yeah.
type in best bedbug spray into Google, when Apprehend comes up, they wouldn't be able to buy Apprehend because it was for professionals only, but they could look up professionals in their area by putting zip code, and then, yeah.
And Bob's
Then
Bug
they
business
find out
comes
up. Who to call. So yeah, Jason Walcott was another core member of the original team, but that was us.
Wow.
Right the way
So
to the
yes,
end.
you guys are doing all the work.
Yeah.
All the work. Yeah. Were there issues with shipping your product when having to keep the spores alive? Like, were there any problems?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we didn't ship refrigerated. We realized that was going to be a massive expense. And it's a very stable product in the oil, but you can't mistreat it. So when we ship it UPS ground, and we did an experiment where we sent a 6-pack of Apprehend with a temperature logger by UPS ground. I think it was the end of July, from central Pennsylvania to Arizona and back. And we got it back, and we looked at the temperature exposure by going ground and what the temperature was that the bottles had achieved during that process. And then we also evaluated the bottles to see whether the spores were still viable. And they did that whole journey with no reduction in viability. And we could see the temperature spikes, but they weren't scary. So it was fine. And that gave us the sort of confidence to know that we could ship anywhere. As long as the PMPs, once they have it, pest management professionals, that stands for, didn't just keep it in their truck along with all of the other chemicals, because trucks sit in the sun, day after day, and that wouldn't be good. So they do have to be a bit careful with it, bring it into an air-conditioned office or something like that when it's not in use. But other than that, it can stand the temperatures.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so you don't have to do special shipping at all. It's just, it's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Wow. This has been so cool, Nina. What a fascinating talk. Again, as someone who's never considered making, I don't kill mosquitoes, I just study their behavior. I'm not you know.
She leaves a
So
lot of comments on the internet about why we shouldn't kill mosquitoes, in fact.
I do, I'm terrible. I am a little bit of an advocate for them. They do have important roles. Listen to the mosquito episode, listeners, if you haven't before, if you
Surprise
want to hear me
pollinators
rant.
always gets me every time. I'm like, what? Mosquitoes are pollinators, and not just.
I don't have anything. I try to think of something positive about bugs. And the bed bug, I just can't think of anything. I guess they're food. They're food, right?
Yeah, other things eat them. And they might let you know when it's time to change the sheets a little more often, when you start finding that bloody, crusty dust on your sheets. Like, maybe I move it up to twice a week instead of just once.
I guess that's a positive. Nina, do you have any positives about the bed bugs? You've worked so closely with them now.
Yeah, do you find them cute? We find that the longer you work with a bug, the cuter you find them. They start looking pretty cute to you.
Well, I'm really unfazed by bed bugs, so they don't bother me at all. I'm quite happy to let them feed on me. It's fine, but they really don't have many positives. It is true. I mean, house spiders do eat them, but they don't eat enough of them to bring them under control. They're not a biocontrol agent from that perspective. And spiders will eat anything, so I don't think we're going to lose any spiders if we were to actually eradicate bed bugs. But we ain't eradicating bed bugs anytime soon, I can tell you that. Whatever we do, however much Apprehend we spray, there's always going to be bed bugs somewhere that are going to be a scourge, and they are, I'm afraid. They're just a scourge.
No idea it was so recent. I had no idea that it had been like, hey, we took care of this. Just kidding. It's the turn of the millennium, and bed bugs are back, baby. They're like riding on a skateboard because it's the 90s,
Salami.
And resistance happens, right? Over time, resistance happens. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Although unlikely to happen with the fungus,
With
given
fungus,
what we
right?
know
Yeah.
about, the aphids, whiteflies, and thrips that are being controlled with Botanigard for the last 20 years. No resistance is built up there. So we don't think that will happen with Apprehend.
Good. Awesome.
Wow.
Oh,
so while you were
Amanda has drawn you as the hero.
yes,
That
you're
is
the hero this
fantastic.
week. I've given you a large can of mushroom soup. I can change that. It's kind of silly. And then I'll probably make it more of the product placement on the anti-bug sign here. But I wanted to draw you as the hero this week because you're so cool, and I just
Thank
think you're
you. I
really neat.
love it. Can I have it? Could you
Yes,
send
I
it?
will.
Oh,
I'll do a finished version, like a full color finished version, and then we'll send that on to you. It's something we do for our guests sometimes when, unfortunately, when I have the like space for it. Um. Oh, producer Derek says we should give tiny handcuffs for apprehending the bed. A bed bug with like 3 pairs of tiny handcuffs is very funny.
Yeah, tiny handcuffs.
You've been
Oh,
apprehended.
cool.
So I will. Yes, I will give you a full color version as I finish it. That probably won't be until after the holidays because I'm uh stuffed full of eggnog until then.
holidays.
Yes, but yes.
Nina, is there anything you wanted to share that maybe we missed or didn't bring up about your product or your journey or anything at all?
I don't think
Fungus?
so. I think the most important message about bed bugs is don't freak out. If you think you have them, do something, but don't try and do it yourself. It's really not worth the hassle. And it isn't the nightmare that you think it's going to be. Just deal with it sooner rather than later. And they are very difficult to contract. So nobody's getting bed bugs because they don't clean, right?
Right.
They have to be introduced into an environment. You may pick them up in a hotel. It is possible, but it's kind of rare. I mean, I've traveled all over and I've never done that. But you can, do measures when you're traveling that helps. And one of them is that you don't store your own suitcase under your bed, because if bed bugs crawled into it during your travel, then storing it under the bed is the worst thing. If you've got a garage, or you can put it even in a black bin liner and seal it up, no bed bugs are going to come out and start infesting your home. And that's the most important thing to try and prevent. And then put all of your dirty laundry through the washer when you get home immediately, and maybe dry clothes, clean clothes can go through the dryer as well, and then you'll know that there's no bed bugs in those. And that's probably all you need to do.
Don't pick up mattresses off the side of the road.
Yeah.
Oh my
God, yeah,
gosh.
don't pick
Yeah.
up secondhand furniture from anywhere without having it properly checked. Yeah, and they can be difficult to spot. So, be suspicious for sure.
Yeah.
Do be suspicious.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Be suspicious. And if you met someone who lets a tarantula out on their bedroom, also be suspicious.
Question their choices. Oh well. It's so awesome having you, Nina. This was so cool, so interesting. I
Very
love the idea of I don't want to use the word weaponizing, but like finding cool ways to use like the world around us to interact with it is so cool. I love that. We don't have to use
Yeah. Interesting control
yes,
measures.
I think it's really cool. I know we joke a lot about like introducing cane toads to Australia, but I think it's really cool when you can introduce an interesting thing to control something else that we're shapers of our own destiny.
Biocontrol.
Yes,
Yeah.
biocontrol. It's been so awesome having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's great to meet you guys.
Thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedule, especially this close to the holidays, to come be on the show. We're very grateful.
If you have any other questions or want to nominate the next bug, you can always find us on Bugs Need Heroes. The handle is used pretty much everywhere. Reddit, Instagram, Blue Sky, that's where we're at. Come find us, come send us messages, and you can always write us an email at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. We love to read those. Other than that, bugs are where you find them. You will always have bugs, maybe even bed bugs. Love you. Bye. Bugs Need Heroes was created by Derek Conrad and Kelly Zimmerman. Hosted by Amanda Niday and Kelly Zimmerman. Bugs Need Heroes is produced and edited by Derek Conrad, with some assistance from Chelsea Bodden and a few cats. Character art is by Amanda Niday. Our music is Ladybug Castle by Roll Music. Got a bug question? Email us at bugsneedheroes@gmail.com. Check us out at bugsneedheroes.com, and most of the socials are under Bugs Need Heroes. Thanks for stopping by. Oh, no, don't fall asleep, computer. You're not allowed to fall asleep.